Hi, today we're going to read page 203 to 212 in Same Sun Here by Silas House and Neela Veshwani. Page 203, February 13th, 2009. Dear Mina, so we have a letter from River to Mina. Dear Mina, I am so sorry that it has taken me so long to write you back. Even though I've been thinking of you every single day, I haven't been able to write, mostly because I haven't been able to think straight here lately. I have been over at the hospital a lot with Mark. They had to cut off his leg all the way above the knee. That's terrible news. Every time the sheet is off him, I get a little sick to my stomach when I see his half leg there. I don't mean this in a bad way. I think I just get sick because I feel so bad for him. I think of him and the way he was always running and jumping. If you think about a thing like that too much, it'll drive you crazy. So I can't even imagine how Mark is feeling. But the weird thing is that he's just as happy as can be all the time. He has bad days sometimes, but for the most part, he is upbeat. So upbeat means positive or happy. I was at the hospital the other day and he was telling all these jokes and laughing big and loud. And I was thinking how I'd hoped I'd be like that if I were in his same situation. I started to write if I were in his shoes. Then that seemed weird since he only has one shoe now. So if I were in his shoes is an idiom, means if I were having the same experience or the same life as that person. Anyway, I must have zoned out thinking about that because all at once Mark was slapping his hands together and hollering, "Earth to River, hey man, are you still there?" And so I realized I was staring off into space. Mark knew what I was thinking though. The way I look at it, them rocks could have killed us, man, he said, so I feel lucky. So Mark still feels lucky to be alive, even though he lost his leg, because he didn't die from the rocks, the boulders. They say Mark will be in the hospital for at least 2 more months. Yes, in the group picture, I am the boy at the end of the front row with the freckles. It's kind of cool to know that you see me every time you go to your refrigerator. Remember, Mina put a picture of River from the newspaper on her refrigerator. It's weird to think I am in somebody's kitchen in New York City. There were 2 or 3 photographers who came here yesterday. One of them was from New York. I asked him if he knew you, and he laughed real big and said, "Well, New York's a pretty big town there, partner." I hate it when people call somebody partner. It's stupid, and it embarrassed me in front of the whole class. I knew that New York was a big town, but I thought that there might be some weird coincidence where he'd know you. You know what I mean? But I didn't say that to him. He also said, "I'd sure as heck remember a name like that," when I said your name. It made me feel like he insulted you. Anyway, out of all the photographers, one of them was the nicest, and he was from People magazine. They took a picture of me and all the other boys gathered around Mark's bed. I am sitting up on the bed right beside him. I think they said that it would be out in a couple of weeks, so look for it. Do you all have newsstands on the streets like they always show in the movies of New York? So newsstands are little businesses on the street that sell newspapers and magazines in New York, and they do have them. We were out of school for snow on the day of the inauguration. Snow, they don't go to school when it snows. Since we have real curvy mountain roads and are not used to that much snow, we get out of school, even if it only snows ½ inch. So I watched it at the hospital with Mark. So he watched Obama's inauguration the day Obama became president. He watched it on the TV with Mark in the hospital. Usually the hospital is a big noisy place with nurses hollering to one another or joking with the patients, people running this way and that. But when the inauguration started, everything got very quiet. Lots of people were gathering in the big waiting room down the hall to watch it. And Mark said he wanted to watch it with everybody else. So I wheeled him down there in the wheelchair. His mom went with us. The waiting room was so packed with people that she and I had to stand behind Mark's chair and watch. Nobody said a word the entire time, but when Obama was sworn in, I heard someone let out a little weeping sound, crying sound. I looked around and there was Dr. Patel. I hadn't even known he was there. He had tears in his eyes. So I looked at every single person and most of them had tears in their eyes. Mark's mom kept her hand over her mouth like she was amazed. This little old woman sitting in a plastic waiting room chair beside me dotted a wad of Kleenex to her eyes. It was the strangest thing. So when people in the hospital were watching Obama being sworn in, they were crying. Dr. Patel was crying, other people were crying. Why were they crying? Maybe some of them were crying because they were happy, and maybe some of them were crying because they were sad. Or maybe some of them were crying because they were worried. They didn't think Obama would be a good president. So this is what River thinks on page 206. So then I thought about it, what it meant to be watching something so historic. The first Black person to become president of the United States, right? So this is history. River and Mark and everyone in the hospital, they were looking at history, our first Black president. If he, Obama, could overcome the odds, then so could a hillbilly or an Indian or anybody. And it made me feel like anything was possible. People are always saying how you can be anything you want in America, but I never really believed it or even thought that much about it. But when Obama was sworn in, I did believe it. And I think that's why everyone had those tears in their eyes, because they knew that too. I'll never forget that moment. But then later that night, I was in the waiting room getting a bag of Funyuns and a Sierra Mist, and this big beardy man was there. He had a big beard, where the man was big. Was in there talking bad about Obama to this nasty looking woman who just nodded to everything he said. He said the country was going to hell and called Obama the N-word. Remember, the N-word is a bad word for Black people. When he said that word, I felt like somebody had punched me in the belly. There were lots of people in there, including some people I had seen with tears in their eyes earlier, but nobody said anything. I didn't know what to say. So I just stood there with my pop and my Funyuns, and I gave him the dirtiest look I could. It took him a moment to realize I was staring at him on purpose, but then he went, "Take a picture, boy." I don't know what to say. I didn't know what to say, so I just stomped off. I really feel terrible about that. When I got back to Mark's room, I kept thinking about how I should have said something, how I should have told him that he shouldn't have said that word, the bad word. But I didn't know how. I felt like a big coward. That means he felt afraid, like the biggest chicken in history. Since then, I've had lots of thoughts of good comebacks. Like, who'd want a picture of somebody as stupid as you? Or I wouldn't want to break my camera. Or I don't take pictures of racists. But at that time, I just froze up. So I feel awful bad about it, and I wish I could do it over. So River was sad. He was upset that this man was a racist and saying racist things about Obama. I wish I could have seen A Chorus Line. Remember, A Chorus Line is the play that Mina's school put on, and Mina helped with decorating the set. It sounds like a lot of fun. Our school never does any good plays. I wish you had taken me a picture of your drawing of Daddy with her grass sickle and school books. That sounds awesome. Next time you design a set, draw me into it so that I can say I've been on a stage in New York City. I keep thinking about Miss Bledsoe crying in the wings when What I Did for Love played. I don't know why I can't get her out of my mind, but I keep wondering why she was crying. I looked up the lyrics online, and to tell you the truth, I think it is a pretty good love song. I bet she loved somebody and they left her, and now she'll never get over it and die a lonely old woman who sits by the window crying every night because she can't move on. Actually, this reminds me of the woman you heard crying, the one Mrs. Lau said had a heart like a squashed tomato. I like to make up stories for people sometimes. Sometimes the made-up story is way more interesting than the real one. Since you are good at designing sets and all, maybe you should think about getting a job working on Broadway. So Broadway is in New York, where they have big theaters with big plays, and they're very famous plays on Broadway. Broadway is a famous place in New York. I can write plays and you can design sets and do the lights and help everybody memorize their lines. We could be partners. It's weird that your parents have been fighting because mine have been getting along better than ever. Dad stayed with us as long as he could stay away from the job down on the Gulf, but he finally had to go back. So River's dad went back to work in the Gulf. Before he left, he spent the whole evening playing basketball with me, the way he used to. And we went to the Dairy Dart and ate foot-long chili buns and large orders of onion rings and root beer floats. So they had junk food. Mama never takes me to the Dairy Dart. She doesn't believe in hot dogs and cheeseburgers. So Mama doesn't feed him junk food, but his father does. The day before Dad had to go back to the Gulf, I was coming out of the woods and I heard my mother laughing. I hadn't heard her laugh in so long that I thought I had forgotten what it sounded like. But as soon as I heard it, I knew that laugh belonged to her. Her laugh is like a kind of music. That's beautiful. And when I came around the porch, Dad was kissing her on the forehead. She hasn't had any more headaches yet and has been going down to the little office building to help Mama make posters and get ready for the big rally. Get ready for the protest with their posters. I've been helping make signs for the rally. Here's what some of them say. Save the endangered hillbilly, right? Because they're in danger because the mountains are being destroyed. Not an act of God, an act of greed. So that means God did not destroy the school. The mining company destroyed the school. Not one more mountain, not one more school, not one more child, right? They don't want anyone else to get hurt. Last night, Mama had a bunch of people come up to the community center and teach everybody how to get arrested without getting hurt. How to get arrested without getting hurt. right? So to be peaceful when you're protesting. So when the police come to take you, you don't get hurt. You say, okay, let's go. She says that some of the people in the rally might end up getting taken to jail. They also learned how to do what they call nonviolent protest. Some of them are talking about chaining themselves to the front porch or the front doors of the Capitol building. So they would chain their body to the building to protest. On our way home, I told Mama I didn't want her to get arrested. I'd be worried to death about her if she got taken to jail. She pulled the car over to the side of the mountain road. We weren't even halfway up the mountain to home. Now listen here, River Dean Justice, she said. She propped her elbow up on the steering wheel because she was turned all the way around her seat to face me. The law isn't protecting the people, son. They're not making the coal company go by the law because it has all kinds of money. So we're going to go up there and get their attention. All night long, I thought about what she said, and I believe she's right. So late that night, I got on the phone and called all the boys who had been there when the rocks came in on us. They are all out of the hospital now. Mark was the only one who got hurt really bad. So we all decided we are going to the Capitol too. Ever since it happened, I've been wanting to do something to help Mark. There's not been anything I've been able to do except sit in the hospital and watch TV with him. But now I can do something for him. So we're all going to march. We're going to march for Mark and for Town Mountain. More later, my own true self, River Dean Justice. Well, that was a nice letter from River, and he's getting ready to go protest mountaintop removal at the Capitol. So I hope you enjoyed that reading, and I'll see you next time. Bye.